Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you were not blown away by the session we had before with Melissa, Carly, Patricia, and Desiree, oof, I'm telling you, that is one must-watch session. And another must-watch session is happening live right now. I've got two very special ladies, Amelia Tan, Chevonne Hassan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Andrew.
Hello, thank you for having us.
If you think Chevonne looks familiar, that's because she was with us at Edition 2, and she's been so fantastic that I told myself I got to get her back on future editions. And here we are, Edition 4, she's back again. And I think she is the first speaker that I had on Rejuvenate that I've called back. So she's a double alumni now. You know how musicians have, you go double platinum, triple platinum, double Rejuvenate alumni now. Okay, I don't think that's worth much, Chevonne, I'm sorry, but welcome back anyways.
Thank you so much, Andrew. No pressure. My palms are just more clammy, I'm more nervous. It's great to be back. Thank you so much for having me back, and thank you for having Amelia back. Having Amelia as well. See, I'm so nervous. I can't.
You are making Amelia nervous now. So in order for everyone to not be nervous, let's do a little bit of exercise. No, I'm just kidding.
Amelia, we can watch.
So for those who are not familiar with Amelia, Amelia is the co-founder and chief executive officer of the 100% project by AdSpace. What is that exactly? We will get to her in a short bit. Chevonne Hassan, life coach, speaker, mental health advocate, and she sometimes works part-time for call centers because whenever you make a call and then you get this person saying, "Nombor yang Anda dial tidak aktif," it's probably Chevonne.
No, it's not,
Okay.
but I can sound like that.
We'll probably get you to do one at the end of the show.
Yes.
Amelia, now,
Hi.
please share with our audience here on Rejuvenate, who is Amelia Tan? What have you been doing in the past? What have you been up to recently? And just tell us a little bit more who Amelia is. And of course, we also want to know what the 100% project is.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Chevonne, for inviting me onto this session, and Andrew for having me. Well, if I were to talk about what I do, I have to go all the way back to 6 years ago. So I'm a social entrepreneur. I used to be an investment banker, and I left my career because it just wasn't fulfilling me. And I went on to join a nonprofit that worked in education called Teach for Malaysia. And it was in Teach Malaysia that I discovered my passion for digital marketing and actually online fundraising. And essentially that is what 100% Project is. It's a crowdfunding platform for teachers, for them to raise funds for whatever initiatives that they're trying to carry out in schools. So that essentially is what 100% Project is in a nutshell. But yeah, so right now I'm currently building my second company. It's called Conscious. It's an e-commerce lifestyle platform. And I also recently did a thing, which is I started a talk show called The Struggle is Real, which is basically a talk show that basically features different people who've gone through different struggles in their life, because I myself have gone through quite a number of challenges in my entrepreneurial journey, I guess, which is why I'm here today, to also share that journey as well. And actually that's how I connected with Chevonne, through our mutual, I guess, life's challenges and struggles. And when I first met Chevonne, I thought she was such an outstanding individual. It gave me so much hope. I'm like, oh wow, it's possible to heal and grow so much. I want to be like her one day. And yeah, so that is who Amelia is in a nutshell.
Thank you. First and foremost, I do agree. We all want to grow up and become like Chevonne.
Yes. and have the telephone operator voice, you know, so soothing.
Chevonne, if you don't mind, before I get to you, I've got a couple of questions for Amelia. You know, I'm getting old and I don't want to lose my train of thought.
Okay.
Now, two things there that you mentioned that kind of piqued my curiosity, Amelia. When you say help teachers to raise funds for projects that they want to carry out in school, I know we're going to go into detail a little bit more in terms of what 100% Project is doing. Now, is that something that is open to all school teachers in terms of all types of schools, or are they just specific schools that you are, I suppose, serving? And is this a collaboration with the Ministry of Education, or how does all that come into the picture?
Yes, so thank you so much for asking that question. So the platform right now currently is open to all education initiative. In fact, last year during COVID, we actually opened up the platform to just fundraise for any organization that needed funding. But when we started, it was really a crowdfunding platform to help public school teachers, because a lot of our public school teachers, oftentimes, it is a fun fact, well, not really fun, but our public school teachers actually, on average, spend at least 30% of their salaries on school projects that they want to carry out. So I've had the privilege of just meeting a lot of outstanding, very inspiring teachers from all across the country who's just trying to, like, you know, provide the best learning experience for their students. So initially it was just for public school teachers, but we have also raised funds for non-profit organizations that basically provide education initiatives for refugee children, the underprivileged. But with these organizations, we then require a little bit more information, because as a platform, we're accountable to our donors. Just for context, because my background was from Teach for Malaysia, my team essentially was used to working with public school teachers. So we had a system to basically vet the projects and ensure accountability. So right now, we are open to anyone who wants to raise funds for education initiatives. It's just that we would require a little bit more documentation for accountability purposes.
Naturally. Now, second thing that got me interested is your talk show. Tell us a little bit more about it. Where do I tune in? Is it a podcast? Is it on Clubhouse?
Well, right now, it's just really a random thing that I started. I actually wanted to do this like last year because I have went through quite a number of struggles myself, right? But at the time, I felt like I did not have anyone to talk to, and it was a very lonely journey until I realized when I started talking about it more openly on my social media platforms, I had people reaching out to me to say that they too struggle. And these were also entrepreneurs, people from all backgrounds, people who look like they have it together, but, were suffering in silence in the background. So I had the idea of starting a show where I would interview different people on the various struggles that you face in life, right? Entrepreneurs, mothers, all kinds of people. And essentially, the show is called The Struggle is Real. You can find us at our Instagram, basically The Struggle is Real, MY. We are currently on Facebook Live, and I would love to get on Clubhouse eventually. We are looking right now, still quite new. We're experimenting with different platforms, and I'm actually going to have Chevonne as my guest in the next show. So definitely stay tuned for that.
Fantastic. And I will be sure to also check it out as well. I'm always for this sort of initiative. Things like that warms my heart. And thank you for sharing that, Amelia. And I'm sure the show is going to be wonderful.
Thank you.
Maybe one day we can, I don't know, cross-collaborate in some way. I mean, Chevonne, I'm loving the logo that I see there. It's so colorful, and it really represents, I mean, obviously, I know you personally now. And that logo just really, truly represents you. Could you just, for the benefit of anyone who is following us for the first time now, give us a recap of who Chevonne Hassan is and that beautiful logo. What do you do and things like that?
Okay. Again, Andrew, it is great to be back on Rejuvenate. When you invited me back the second time, I thought, wow, yay! You know, I must have done a decent job the first time. So I appreciate coming back. It's truly a privilege to be back. So for those of you who know me or don't know me, hi, I'm Chevonne Hassan. I'm based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And for about 20 years of my life, I've been in the corporate space. I've been working in the corporate world, and I decided to go freelance and become a coach. Or rather, I had already been doing coaching for about 11 years in the corporate space. I decided to do freelance coaching in life and leadership, to be a facilitator and a speaker, and to continue being a mental health advocate. This was 2 years ago. And just as I started my beautiful adventure, COVID decided to visit us. They didn't tell me. It decided to just visit us. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. I'm a coach for organizations in a leadership space. I am a coach for individuals who are looking for how would you explore life in any way? How do you build your confidence? How do you find yourself in life? How do you make your dreams come true? My logo, so the logo represents faith, hope, and love to me. It's got the hands, and then it's got the leaves with holding it, right? What it represents is that everything you need is in your hands. All the colors you need in your life, it's in your hands. All the dreams that you have that you could possibly imagine and ever want, it's within your grasp, in your hands. And that's what the logo symbolizes. It is from within you.
Amazing, amazing. And you know, this is exactly why I needed to get Chevonne back on the show. You know, every time she speaks, you almost fall into this deep relaxation mode, and you kind of forget we are live on you know, we're on a live broadcast now, because it's just so soothing. It's just so soothing. Amazing work that you've been doing. Chevonne, we'll come back to you in a short bit. Amelia, very quickly about 100% project. How many crowdfunding have you done? Have you closed? Is it convenient to share what kind of projects that usually get, you know, I mean, people who submit in their requests? What kind of things are they asking for in that sense, or what kind of projects are they running?
Well, so basically since 2016, we've raised, I think, close to 3 million ringgit for basic classrooms across the country. We fundraise for things like, essentially, like, you know, teachers who basically wanted to supply new tables and chairs, you know, for their classrooms, to bringing in like projectors for the classroom to engage their students, to sending their kids for robotics competition, or like kids in more remote parts of the country. A lot of teachers actually want to expose them to, I guess, the world outside of their little kampongs, and, you know, basically fund like trips, you know, excursions, you know, to Petro Science, to KL. And, you know, for us living in KL, we may take the city for granted, right? But if you are a kid from a kampong and you've never been out of, you know, your village, coming to KL is such an inspiring, you know, experience for kids. So we've helped teachers fund quite a number of things, and like, it's so amazing to see some of the projects that teachers actually embark in their schools. One very memorable one is this teacher that basically wanted to raise funds for robotics kits for her robotics class that she is getting her female students to be a part of. And for me, that is just so amazing. And this is in Terengganu, you know, like a place that you would not expect something like that to happen. So yeah, I just want to say that, you know, through this experience, I've been just really privileged to just meet so many inspiring individuals, which I think are like truly the unsung heroes of the country, who essentially work day and night, you know, trying to provide their students with the best education. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we obviously hope that there will be more of this sort of a thing coming over, and 100% Project will be able to be that catalyst for them to make dreams happen.
We surely do hope so.
Chevonne, you mentioned a little bit about the pandemic. Of course, if we all look at the title above us, the Pandemic Survival Kit, right? You know, you were on a pathway where you thought to yourself, okay, this is it, this is how it's going to be, and as you mentioned as well, an uninvited guest suddenly pops over.
Yeah.
I suppose, how tough has that been over the last 18 months or so?
Okay. So as long as you've known me, and as long as everyone has known me, and for those of you getting to know me, I speak my truth. It has been really difficult, really, really difficult. So when I initially started on my freelance adventure 2 years ago, I told myself, I got this. I've got all this experience in the workplace. I can do this. And it was around Chinese New Year. So I knew, okay, you know, around Chinese New Year in Malaysia, things are a bit slow, which is normal. It's to be expected. And then in March, we had our uninvited surprise visitor. And in my mind, I still told myself, I got this. I've been through worse before. I've got this. And I started putting myself a little bit at a time out there. I was afraid. Truth be told, I was very afraid of putting myself out there. I didn't know how to, and I'm not that sort of person who can confidently go to people and say, hey, this is what I do. This is why you should get my services, right? Or this is why you need my services. So it's still taking a lot of practice. And along the way, I couldn't get any freelance jobs, and my funds were running very low. And as the weeks, months went by, I started living on my life savings, which was my lifeline. And then as that started depleting, I became more desperate. And I thought, oh gosh, okay, you know, during that time, I was thinking to myself, I have no choice but to really explore all my options, look for freelance work, look for part-time jobs, and even look for full-time work. And that was a very painful, difficult, frustrating process with a whole bunch of emotions involved, because I would apply for jobs, and it was a very disappointing experience for me, because when I go for the interview process, in my opinion, the experiences were less than pleasant. Right? I won't go into detail, but it's very frustrating. So I understand what job seekers are going through. And I really feel for the job seekers who are just starting out with not so much experience, because for someone like me with 20 years of experience, you would think, hey, not an issue. But guess what? It is an issue. And then I thought, okay, you know, out of loneliness and isolation, I decided to explore Clubhouse. That was really out of curiosity and boredom, no other reason. And when I joined Clubhouse, I realized I started getting a little bit of traction here and there. And that's also where I met you, Andrew. And my journey has been one from a place of fear of failure to now it is becoming a place of fear of success. And I'm just putting it out there and being completely transparent, because for so long, I needed to fight for what I've wanted. I've needed to work really hard, fight for what I've wanted. And now when people like you, people like Melissa, who was on earlier as well, and yesterday, who willingly offer support, I'm learning to be familiar with that for people who willingly do it with no ulterior motive. And now that I'm starting to get little jobs here and there, it's really good. So I'm like, whoa, wait, what do I do? People are recognizing me now. Now what? Like, uh-oh.
Buy Andrew coffee.
Did I
That's
get
what
buy
you
Andrew
do.
coffee?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great, great. Thank you for sharing it as raw as possible. Amelia, you obviously earlier on in the conversation, you repeated this a couple of times. It was really tough times for you, really hard. There were some struggles and obstacles. Would you be willing to share with us today?
Yes, definitely. I guess that's why I'm here, and I think this is also the reason why, Chevonne and I connected as well, right? Well, thank you, Chevonne, for sharing that. I didn't know, like, you went through all that, and I'm just so happy to see where you are right now, right? And like, I think you have the perfect voice for Clubhouse. It just like calms everyone down, Like even if you're having a stressful day, you listen to Chevonne and you're like, okay, all is well. Um, as for myself, I think like I kind of went through some of my challenges actually even before the pandemic. Um, so I think entrepreneurship is actually it sounds very glamorous, sounds like a glamorous journey. Oh, you're your own boss, right? But it comes with its very unique sets of challenges, right? Because, you know, work-life balance goes out the window, especially when you first start, right? I think when you're first starting out, at least from my experience, when I first started out, it was a little bit like I don't know, like it was like a wave. I was riding this wave, right? And somehow when I first started, I never actually thought of wanting to be an entrepreneur my entire life, right? I just saw a problem that I wanted to solve, and I guess I just got carried by that passion. And in the beginning of the journey, things started working out. So I would describe the experience as a euphoric journey, right? So that's why, like, even though you don't have enough of sleep, it's okay, because it's just so exciting. But after 2, 3 years down the road, it's when you're on a constant state of stress, you're not resting enough, you're working weekends, you have no work-life balance, it becomes very unsustainable. So I would call myself the queen of burnout because I've burnt out multiple times. And my the so my company, it's not a conventional company because it's a social enterprise, and the business model is very charity like, right? So with the platform, we've committed to never make a dime off our teachers. So we don't charge them a fee for using our platform, and we found other ways to sustain ourselves, right? And essentially we do that through partnerships with corporates who actually want to work with schools. And so basically we tap in on their CSR funding or marketing funding to basically run projects, and that's how we actually sustain our platform. But in 2018, I think that was the time where the economy wasn't doing really, really well, and companies were slashing their CSR budgets. And that was also the time where my dad fell sick, and I realized our family was having some financial problems. And as an entrepreneur, I did not pay myself very much at all. And also, I grew up, I guess, pretty privileged, so I never had to really worry about money or supporting my family, which is why I guess I could leave my cushy investment banking job to go work for an NGO, right? So when that happened, when my family crisis happened, that was when a huge slap in the face, because well, I wasn't earning enough to support my family, and not only that, I was also heavily in debt because I was trying to sustain this lifestyle. Because I grew up pretty privileged, so I wasn't earning enough, so I was racking up a lot of credit card debt. So that was like a really difficult phase in my life because dad was sick, family was going through financial problems, my company wasn't doing very well, I was heavily in debt, and I never had to take care of anyone in my entire life. So that was essentially one of the most difficult periods of my life. Knew I wanted to keep the platform going. I had 11 people in my team at one point, and I had to let everyone go except for one person. It was a very painful decision. The night before I had to do it, I did not sleep. I cried the entire night, but in hindsight, it was the right thing to do because the platform is still around. But yeah, so I think in terms of like, what people are currently going through right now, companies like struggling to stay afloat, and the struggles that a lot of these company owners are having to make, right? Letting staff go and everything. I can really, I feel for everyone because I went through the same thing, not like a couple years ago. So that was actually one of the challenges. Fortunately, 100% Project is still around, right? And I'm still proud of the fact that, last year we did raise quite a lot of funds for COVID aid. But yeah, essentially that was like the struggle, to try to keep this platform alive, to, be burning out, trying to recover from it, burning out again. But yeah, that is essentially, but I've learned a lot from this journey, and we'll be happy to share later on in this conversation.
That's I don't know. All I can say is thank you for sharing. I think a lot of people are in that position as well. Whatever yourself and Chevonne shared, I mean, let's be honest here as well. I also experienced burnout last year, and I can't recall if I shared this with Chevonne, but yeah, there was a period of time last year where I just couldn't as well, and it was a real struggle, whether it's at home or at work. But things like that needs to be heard, I suppose. Now, Chevonne, we also spoke about this, off air, offline before today as well. We spoke about how this pandemic is just one of the many pandemics that are going to happen. It's something unavoidable, but I suppose we need to get ourselves prepared anyhow. Seeing what Amelia has just shared, it sounds a bit almost impossible to even think about how can you prepare for another pandemic. Is there something I'm not seeing here? Is there something where perhaps it's not as complicated as I make it out to be?
That's a fantastic question, Andrew. It is a complicated situation for everybody. There is no simple solution. Like for me, my support system is so critical, more than I could have imagined it to be. The way I see it and the way I have experienced it is in two parts. It's me and my support system. And I put it in two parts because I can't fully rely on my support system, right? They're people too. And if I fully rely on my support system, it means I'm relying on other people for something that I can only give myself. So a lot of what I need to do is for myself, mentally, emotionally, physically. I need to look after myself. I need to do what I need to do for myself first. And then my support system has been phenomenal. My partner, who, again, thanks to COVID, is based in Sydney. So, but we have technology. So I can't really fully complain, not on live air anyway. I've had two fantastic friends I met last year through a coaching program who taught me what support in friendship really looks and feels like and how safe it feels. And then my family, my friends, my Clubhouse community, the BCF community, right? So the support system is very, very important because as humans, we're not designed to go through anything alone. Yes, we do our own things on our own, but at the end of the day, the way I see it is we're all really just walking each other home. We need support. We need good company, whatever that good company looks like and feels like to us. Will it solve our problems? No. Will it help make it lighter? Yes. Will it help make us feel a little bit better? Yes. So that's my response to your question, Andrew. And I really love this session because nothing has been prepared. We have no idea what you're going to ask us at all.
Yes.
So just for transparency, I have no idea what I was going to ask as well.
I love it. I love it. So wild.
Amelia, writing on that as well as on my question, I suppose I want to get your perspective as well. How do you see it?
Well, I think like very similar to Chevonne, right? I think having a support system is really important. And like even just having one friend, you know, just one true friend that gets you, holds space for you, does not judge you, and allows you to just be you, right? And I mean, when I was going through that struggle, I was hit very badly, you know, to the point where I felt like giving up on life, right? And it was actually that one friend who reached out to me, and I would say, like, she saved my life. You know, she saved my life, and you know, it was the beginning of my healing journey, right? Where she held space for me. She checked in on me every day because she knew I was not okay. And at that point, I was not open at all to speaking about these things. I had not gone for therapy yet, right? No idea what that whole process was like. Had very little self-awareness. All I knew was just that I was in a lot of pain and a lot of stress, and I was carrying a lot of fear and shame and anxiety, and I was definitely depressed, right? Um, and just, I guess, having that one friend, you know, show up, and I guess she had to convince me that I wasn't a burden. I still remember her telling me that, you know, Amelia, like, you're not a burden, right? Like, and she asked me, like, if I were in trouble, would you think that I'm a burden? And I said, of course not. And that, I think, just having that one friend reach out and truly care really makes a world of difference. And of course, I also have my family, you know, who's just been like my pillar of support. And for me, the other thing that really helped me in this whole healing journey was actually finally gathering the courage to actually commit to therapy. That has truly been life changing for me. I always tell people, you know, therapy is like the cheat sheet for life. Because if it wasn't for therapy, I would not have been able to uncover all the things that's within me that I didn't even know was within me, right? And it really helped me unlearn a lot of narratives that I formed in my head and relearn new ways of being, I guess. So those were my, I guess, my top three things that basically helped me through, you know, this whole period.
Thank you for sharing, the both of you. We will come back to the survival kit that we are, supposed to be talking about, which we've already been talking about it in bits and pieces. But I already see the chat box here filling up, so I just want to address them so that we can try to cover as much as we can, over the period of time. First one here is from I suppose it's a business account, International Malaysia Charity Organization. Hi to all the three of you. My question is to Amelia. Do you have any advice for NGOs looking to transition or switch to being a SE? Because NGOs sometimes can get too political.
Well, I would say this, yes. I think, like, you know, I would say, you know, if you're an NGO, you know, technically, if you look at your entire operation, you run like a company, right? We say, like, I mean, yes, we get donation, but your donation is your source of revenue to keep your company going. But I do feel like, you know, like relying on donation as just your source of revenue is definitely not sustainable, because when, you know, there's an economic downturn and all that, it becomes very hard for you to raise funds for, say, from corporates. Or in a case like COVID, there is this thing called donor fatigue. You know, when too many people are out there raising funds, or when situations are really tough, you know, people get tired of donating, even though they want to, but it feels like, oh my gosh, like this is endless. You know, how many times, you know, can I donate? And it, after a while, it gets really demotivating and also depressing. So I would say, like, you know, um, trying to adopt the SE model is definitely the way to go moving forward, right? And one way to do it is really to develop a product or a service that you can offer, right? So you can think about your beneficiaries, what's the cause are you serving, and to look into what kind of products or services that you can offer people. So they're not really donating from you, but they're actually purchasing this product or this service from you. So you're providing something of value rather than you actually going out to people and say, like, oh, you know, please donate, you know, to me because I have X and X story. Well, that is, you know, that is something that you should still talk about. But if you're able to create a product or service of value, then your story actually makes that product and service so much greater because it has meaning. So I would say like, yes, definitely transition, into SE. And if you'd like to consult further, like feel free to ping me, on my social media handles. Happy to consult and help. This is something that I am very passionate about.
Thank you, Amelia. So just for the benefit of all our audience as well, if any of you want to get in touch with any of our speakers throughout edition 4, and in fact throughout the first 3 editions as well, just go to the platform. It's rejuvenatemy.com. Most likely that is where everyone is watching today's session and all the previous sessions. Under the speaker section, you will be able to see the bios of each of the speakers, and you will get then the social media handles that Amelia has been talking about. So that's one way of getting in touch with them. Chevonne, before I move to you, there is a comment here for you. Chevonne is always so real. Yeah, so that came in when you were responding, so I didn't want to interrupt, but yeah, there you go. Ian McKenney, I hope I got that name right. Ian McNee. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing openly and honestly, everyone. It's incredibly reinforcing to hear that being entrepreneurial is worthwhile, yet also scary and ultimately fulfilling. While necessity facilitates outcomes, how did you maintain hope in the face of isolation, failure, and at times, what felt like insurmountable odds? Chevonne. I'm passing all the tough questions to you.
Wow. Okay. Could you repeat the last part, which is the actual question?
Yeah. So how did you maintain hope in the face of isolation, failure, and at times what felt like insurmountable odds?
That's a deep question. So for me, what COVID did for me, what the pandemic did for me was, for someone like me, I've had a very intimate relationship history with mental health. So what the pandemic did for me was basically bring all of that up, and then decided to toss different ones to me at different times. So what gave me hope, I want to say it was not just me. Sometimes the hope came from me. It's what I look forward to in my life. Whether it is a purpose, whether it is my passion in helping people, whether it is me wanting to be reunited with family or my loved ones again, that for me was hope. The other part of hope came from my support system, because I could not have done it myself. When they reminded me, hey, don't lose hope, just keep hanging on to hope, that made a huge difference. The other part was what again, Andrew? Failure in the face of failure?
Oh no, the first part was just a comment on
Okay.
I mean, it was just his thoughts. Yeah.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
so you've answered the
Okay.
portion, I hope, Ian. Thank you for the question. Before I move on to the next segment, I want to address the last question here, because I think it would probably be addressed to Amelia. Hi everyone. Any tips on overcoming a burnout? What would be your go-to relaxation method? I suppose, Amelia, maybe you can share how you came out of the multiple times that you said that you went through burnout.
So the only way to overcome burnout is to stop whatever you're doing. So if you sense that you're burning out, my advice is to stop whatever you're doing, really hard pause and rest. Because what burnout essentially is you driving yourself, I guess driving yourself mad, because you're not resting, you are overstressing yourself. And actually burnout essentially is your body's way of telling you, I need rest. Stop moving, stop doing stuff, let me sleep, let me rest, stop stressing out. And I've had to learn this lesson multiple times, because I would burn out and then I would like very reluctantly rest because I had no choice. My body was breaking down, right? And the moment I recovered, I would do the same thing again, right? And so that's why it happened multiple times. So now during this pandemic, I guess in a way, because things have slowed down a little bit, it has forced me into, well, it has given me more time to rest. But the interesting thing was that it gave me so much anxiety, you know, not doing anything or not doing as much as I used to, right? So a lot of it is also driven, I think the relationship, for my relationship with burnout has a lot to do with anxiety, a lot to do with my high expectations of myself, a lot to do with, I guess, fear of failure, you know, um, shame, guilt, you know, a lot of these different combination of things. So my advice to people would be, if you feel like you're burning out, definitely seek rest. If you find yourself, you know, finding it immensely hard to rest, or like you're not comfortable resting, then I think like try like going to see a therapist, because my therapist essentially helped me learn how to rest, or like I guess reframe things so that I would feel not guilty resting and knowing that it's the right thing to do.
Chevonne, is there anything you want to piggyback on or to add on?
I do actually, for the hope bit and the burnout. Okay, so for the hope bit, one more thing that helped me was on days when I was in a better headspace, I would make a physical list. I would write things that I am good at. I would write my own characteristics, my own qualities, and I would list out my strengths. The reason I did that, and on hindsight now, I'm really glad I did that, is because when I was completely jobless, I felt like my value and my worth was in work. And when I didn't have work, I felt like crap. Oh, sorry, can I say crap? I felt horrible, right? I felt absolutely horrible, demotivated. I felt hopeless, worthless. So when I was in a better headspace, I would have a physical list, like a journal, and I would write it out and I would keep it, so that on days when I'm not feeling so great, I'll open that up. On some days, it lands. On some days, I look at it and I'm like, oh God. But I can't say anything because it's my handwriting. And it was when I realized that if there's anybody out there in a similar situation, we are not what we do. That's what I've learned for myself. I do who I am.
Ooh. Can you repeat that again for us, please?
We are not what we do. We do who we are. I used to think, oh, I am a trainer. And then when that job was taken away, what am I now? I was a coach. Take that away. What am I now? And I do all of that now because of my passion. So there's that underlying thing. So from a hope factor, that really helped me.
Resonate.
From a burnout perspective, yes, rest. I'm still learning that too. Rest, make yourself rest. It's okay to rest. It's necessary to rest. One of the things I remind myself is, hey Chevonne, if you don't rest, and then touch wood, if you fall ill, it's going to take you longer to recover than to just rest. And I'm like, oh wait, okay, I should just rest, and then I'll rest.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Wonderful. Now, before I move on, Ian just dropped a message to say thank you. So I think we addressed his question,
Thank you, Ian.
Thanks for asking the question.
Melissa here has dropped a comment. You're incredible, Chevonne. Your open heart, your resilience, and and resolve continues to inspire me and all who you so generously share with. And this Desiree also chimed in to say, you are amazing and inspiring. I think all of you, I mean,
y'all are gonna make me cry.
everyone that I've got on Rejuvenate has been truly inspirational to me especially, and that's why you're on the show, because I want to share that inspiration with everyone, your inspiring stories, your inspiring background, the way you climb up after a fall is just so amazing. Now, maybe I'll start with Amelia. When the pandemic hit, as in the COVID pandemic hit, you spoke about how you needed to let go people and stuff like that. I suppose, obviously, it was a blank, right? For all of us. We were still enjoying Chinese New Year at that time, just like what Chevonne was saying. March came and then the announcement came. I mean, we were still taking it lightly. Let's be very honest here now. When that happened in March, we say, okay lah, lockdown, after 4 weeks, right, things will be back to normal. How hard can it be, right? They'll find something and then say it's okay, or they'll just make sure they ship all those people that brought those stuff in and it will go away. That was March 2020. September 2021. Here we are. So
Yes.
I suppose, how do you even get ready? I know I asked this question earlier, but in a business perspective, I think we spoke about how we can get ourselves ready mentally and whatnot for the next one. Support system is something we spoke about, right? Family, friends, people you can share, your struggle or your difficulties or any of your thoughts and whatnot. But as a business itself, how can we do that? And Chevonne, while Amelia is answering that, I want to ask your perspective in terms of a freelancer. We've got the gig economy is buzzing now, so you are more into that space as well now. So back to Amelia, how do you navigate that, I suppose?
This is it's a tough question, because from a business perspective, honestly, I think what I've really learned is that this life is not really, what happens to us in life, to our companies, it's not within our control. Something like a pandemic can come and just, you can plan all you want, like you can for example, right, even if your company is like, okay, I have like 1 year runway or 2 year runway. I mean, this pandemic has been for 2 years, right? So I feel like the most important thing, I think I really resonated with what Chevonne just said, we do who we are, right? And that is something I've actually learned this year, which is to basically, very similar to what Chevonne was essentially saying, when I went to therapy, right, in the beginning of the year, because I was severely burnt out at the beginning of the year, and I had a company that I wanted to build, right? But I couldn't even get out of bed. And I felt I was so hard on myself because I was like, Amelia, it's a pandemic, like you really need to survive, right? You need to build this company. You have this idea. Why can't you get out of bed? I was so hard on myself. And I essentially actually went to the therapist to ask her to fix me. Right? I told her like, okay, I really need to get my mojo back because I really need to get my career going, but I cannot even get out of bed. So can you please fix me? And she asked me this big question, right? That stumped me. She asked me, Amelia, what matters to you more, your well-being or your career? And I was like, oh, darn it. And I was like, okay, reluctantly, I said like, my well-being. But that meant that I had to put my career on hold, which was so hard for me to do, because I went to her wanting to kickstart my career, right? So I spent 3 months working on my, I guess, mental wellness. And essentially, we worked on my self-esteem, very similar to what Chevonne was saying. I had to journal and write down qualities about myself that I liked beyond work, because essentially, we were exploring my self-esteem and essentially my relationship with work, how I was defining my worth based off my achievement and my work. But if you take that away, then who are you, right? So I had to build other pillars in my life, right? I had to learn to appreciate myself out of my achievements, right? And And that essentially for me would be that survival kit thing, right? Which is like, I think to learn to, I guess, I guess in a very, it sounds very cliche, but like to really learn to love yourself, right? To appreciate who you are, right? For just the individual that you are, besides work, besides all these other things that you think you are, right? You as an individual, you're good enough. Because a lot of times when we meet failure, we always think like, oh, we're not good enough, must be because we're not smart enough or we're not hardworking enough. We are so self-critical, right? And that is where the descent happens. And the thing I've learned is that life is always going to throw you curveballs. But the key is not about falling, or not falling. It's really about like how quickly can you pick yourself up. But if you're not your best friend and you're the person who's like, beating yourself up every time you fall, like, why do you fail? Why do you fall? The recovery process is going to take a lot longer because you're hindering your own progress, right? But if you learn to be your own cheerleader, that your self-belief in yourself, your self-esteem doesn't waver no matter what life throws at you. You still believe that I'm good enough. It helps you recover a lot quicker. So it's really not about falling, it's about picking yourself up. And the only person that can pick you up is really yourself. So that's the biggest thing I've learned from this whole pandemic.
Thank you for sharing, Amelia. I totally resonate with all the things that you've just shared. Beautiful, beautiful. Chevonne.
Andrew, could you repeat your question for clarity, please?
Now, difficult times, pandemic, a year and a half ago, like I said, March 2020, Amelia just shared what are some of the things that she probably would put into practice now if another pandemic were to hit again. She's well equipped in that sense for the business. Now, as a freelancer, I know it's absolutely different from running a business, but it is still a business, at the end of the day. How would you approach it this time around?
Okay, thanks for the question, Andrew. It's a really good question. I would say one needs to be self-motivated, because when I don't go out and look for work, I don't get the potential or possibility of work. I need whatever input I put in is whatever I'm getting in return, chances are. So I need to be self-motivated, because my time in a day is mine. It's flexible. What I do with it is up to me. If I choose to do nothing with it in a day, I'm losing out on opportunities. However, if I need to rest a day, it's up to me to determine, do I need one whole day to rest so that I can be even more productive the rest of the week? So self-motivated, be true to myself and know my value. Because as a freelancer, what I find is it's quite easy to get caught up in different ideas, be inspired by different things that different people are doing. When someone bounces a new idea, you're like, oh, maybe I can do that. Maybe I could try that approach. And initially, I was trying to do that. Maybe I could try that. Maybe I could be like that. Maybe. And then I'm like, wait, hang on. All of that isn't me. That's not something that's not something typically Chevonne. So in that sense, be true to myself, and know my value is when I offer my services, it's at a certain value, it's at a certain cost, at a certain price. I understand when people or organizations don't have the budget. It happens, it's okay. I need to know my value enough to know, do I just accept anything? Or do I accept certain things? Right? Because as much as I do want work, I do need work, I'm not looking for handouts, and I'm not a charity case as a freelancer. I really do know my value and what I bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As a freelancer, I have learned to do one thing I have taken for granted. to learn how to network. That is something I didn't particularly enjoy, because when I used to work with organizations, you didn't really need to network as hard as much. And now I do. I don't network. It's similar to the Clubhouse experience, right? You curate your own experiences through the people you meet, through the people you connect with. So I would say as a freelancer, I need to learn. And if you're a freelancer, please learn how to network, how to collaborate. And one of the things that's really helped in networking and collaborating with others is learning how to communicate consciously. I'm sure you've heard this term so far, right? Not just communicate in general, right? People can communicate, but to communicate consciously. These would be my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I made tips earlier as you asked me that question. I made notes. Be self-motivated, be true to yourself, know your value, learn how to network and collaborate, because it's really a collaboration, and communicate consciously.
Beautiful. I knew you would drop lots of gems with that question. Amazing, amazing. Now, I want to head on straight to Melissa's comment here. Amelia, thank you for that incredible insight regarding creating a product or service of value within the conversation of shifting from NGO to a SE. And you know, I also truly appreciate that, to be honest. There's another comment here from Shima. Amelia, thank you for your sharing too. And the person, I suppose, who asked that question earlier about the transition from NGO to SE, also say, thank you so much for the willingness to guide newbies.
Oh, of course, more than happy. You know, for me, I just feel I genuinely have huge respect for people who work in NGOs, right? Because it's not an easy space to be in, right? And like the only reason why you're in there is because you're genuinely passionate about solving a problem. But of course, we need to first help ourselves. You know, how do we solve the problem of getting enough funding so that we can solve that problem? So I'm very happy to connect with anyone who wants to venture into starting their own SE or doing that transition. Happy to help, and I'm very happy to hear that it was useful for all of you.
Now, we spoke about the problems, we spoke about how we want to address them, but I suppose just to wrap things up, my additional question to that is, okay, we spoke about all the things. It sounded very simple to follow. Chevonne put it up in a 5-point tip. Amelia, yourself, you also mentioned a couple of things which I totally resonated with, but also at the back of my head, or perhaps the devil's advocate in me is like saying, okay lah, it sounds easy, to implement for certain people, but what about you? Exactly. So I guess for the skeptics, they'll look at you and say, yeah, it's easy for you to say that because, in a way, you've gone through that, you've picked yourself up, and you are in a way okay again. But at that very moment, I suppose, I don't know, people are just going to refuse to listen. And that's the problem a lot of humans have, right? We have problems listening to people and to the simplest of things. When you tell them it's actually just like that, they'll never believe you, right? They'll always say no, that what's the catch? How do we break that perception? How do we break that barrier with people who have that sort of mindset, I suppose,
Amelia, you want to go?
I can go first. Well, I mean, I guess I was sort of like that, in the beginning. I was told to rest, or that, you're working too hard, or like, this is too much work. I didn't listen. And I burnt out many, many times, right? At the expense of my own life, actually, and my own health. And I guess for me, like when I say like, if you are experiencing burnout, or if you're not in a good space mentally, to pause. Like, I say that with, I guess a lot of conviction, because otherwise you would end up like me. My saying all the stuff that we just said, I think Chevonne as well, right? To practice these things, it's not easy. It sounds easy, but it's so extremely hard to put into practice. Like, it's something that you have to do mindfully, because you're going against every grain of your being. Because, well, for me, I've been, I guess, conditioned my entire life to associate my self-worth to my productivity, to my success. So the moment when my company wasn't doing well, I was like, who am I, right? And that's where the descent happened. And my last burnt out, it took me 6 months for me to recover, to feel like I could open my laptop again, to even be on this show. It's like, for me, it's a miracle, for me to be back in the space again, because I was gone for 6 months, and it was because I was hiding. And I think, like what Chevonne was saying, like, in times like this, you have to self-motivate. But if you're not in a good space mentally, it's so hard to self-motivate, because the voice in your head is not a motivating voice. It's a voice that destroys you, that is so critical. And you can never build anything if you're talking yourself down, right? So for me, it's like, I guess, I guess I say this from experience. I totally understand the resistance in the beginning, like, oh, how can I stop? Just stop. I have so much to do, it's a bad time. I need to be making money. But like what Chevonne was mentioning earlier, it's really about a balance, right? No one's asking you to like rest and not do anything forever. But rest is really a crucial component for you to, I guess, stabilize, get clarity, and then you can move forward. But because if you're in a stressed out state, you can't make these good decisions. Very often they're rash decisions, and you probably have multiple things going on in your head. At least that was what was happening. And then I get overwhelmed, right? So rest was really, really important for me to like get calm, get myself grounded. And then, the ideas start coming up. It was easier for me to motivate myself to move forward. So I guess, I can't say much to, people who feel like they, this sounds easy. I guess if you want, you can follow, my Instagram, because I've been documenting this journey. So like you will see, like, in the beginning, I was just so depressed. I was just constantly struggling until I managed to make a breakthrough. So yeah, I would say, yeah, I've been there. That's why I'm talking about it, because I really don't want people to have to go through what I went through.
Chevonne?
It's a fantastic question, Andrew. I would respond by saying that it's not about trying to change people's mindset or trying to break that mindset. Rather, for those of us who have been on this journey, we keep doing what we're doing. And I come from a place of, when the pandemic hit, I was in two spaces. I'm laughing now, but at the time I wasn't really laughing. I was in denial, and I was resisting, right? Because like you said, Andrew, when we were hit with the pandemic, and I'll remember this date, March 18, I thought, it's just going to be like maybe a month, we'll be fine. A month goes by, another month, it's like, maybe another month, it's fine. And I continued, and I was comfortable in that space of denial. And then I resisted to a point where I realized, okay, Chevonne, you have the choice. Stay where you are. But if you do stay where you are, don't complain about it, or do something about it if you want something to change. Your choice. Which one do you want to choose? And I stayed in the middle for a little bit, because I didn't want to choose. Until it came to a point where I'm like, I need to do something. So I chose. And at the end of the day, the way I see it is, it might look simple because we're here right now, we're smiling, we're laughing, we're talking about it on hindsight.
Yes.
Because of the journey we are coming from. At the end of the day, we all have a choice. What you decide to do is entirely up to you, but it is a possibility. Rather, it is a possibility.
Spoken like a true coach, Chevonne.
Also based on lived experience.
Yes.
I learned the hard way.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Amelia. I was just about to say that actually, but you know, so true, so true. I had to ask the question to just so we balance out, you know,
Yeah.
all sides in terms of, you know, the curiosity, I suppose. And I learned this from Melissa. You know, I'm just fearlessly, you know, being curious.
Yay! Could I also add, Andrew, what people don't see, and I'm sure Amelia and many others would have been on a similar journey. What you don't see is the nights I spent in bed crying. The nights or the times where I'm screaming into a pillow out of frustration and anger. So I personally have a really loud voice. If I scream without a pillow, people would think I am severely in trouble, right? I'm screaming into a pillow. I don't want to break things, so I look for old pieces of paper and I rip it up. That's what people don't see.
Yes.
I'm in the bathroom and suddenly I break down out of frustration. I'm just in tears, not because there's shampoo in my eyes, but because I'm so frustrated. I'm so exhausted. I'm so tired that all I can do is just cry. And then I ask myself, do you want to cry every day? Because it's okay to cry. I'm not saying don't cry. It's okay to cry, but what I asked myself was, if you don't want to cry every day, then Chevonne, you're going to need to do something different. Again, it boils down to that choice. Because for those who are closest to me, and even my partner, he's seen me on a screen, in bed, in tears, crying, right? Nobody else can make that decision for us. Only we can.
Here. Definitely. I've cried plenty.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Chevonne. Now, Amelia, correct me if I'm wrong, you are in the process of writing a children's book, or you have plans to publish a children's book? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes. So essentially, that's you know, what Chevonne just said really resonated with me. You know, we do who we are, and you know, through the process of therapy, I give my therapist huge prop, because she really helped me during this pandemic, you know, to reframe, you know, who I am, right? For me to truly appreciate and embrace who I am without having to put on a front. Because I always felt like I had to be a certain way, I had to look professional, dress a certain way, you know, for people to deem me a certain way. But through the process of therapy, I realized, like, I am the way I am because I was built like this. I'm meant to express whatever that's inside of me, right? And so I've come to a stage right now where I'm like, okay, I've always been someone with a lot of ideas, but I always hold myself back because I think a lot of people's gonna think it's stupid, I'm not good enough, blah, blah, this and that. So the children's book essentially is, it's something I've always wanted to do. You know, when I was young, I always loved Enid Blyton. And essentially, I'm just writing a book that I wish I had as a little girl, you know, a role model that I had, you know, I wish I had for myself, right? And, you know, and it's going to be very magical because I love, you know, anything that's magical and like very fantasy based. So it's called The Adventures of Mimi, you know, and Mimi essentially is, I guess, an ode to my inner child, right? It still lives inside of me. And it's actually going to be teaching values that I've learned now as an adult that I wish that I could, you know, I learned when I was much younger. So, and it's just a side project that makes me happy because I get to go into my dream world and write about, you know, dragons and fairies and all that different fun stuff.
Amelia, when the book reading happens, you will have to do it in Rejuvenate.
Oh my gosh, that would be so nice. I would love to. Oh my goodness. That would be something
I never imagined. We will do a children's version. We will do a children's version of Rejuvenate, and I would love to invite you to do a book reading when the book published. How long more do you think before everything gets done?
I don't know. I guess like now that you put it on, I feel like I must finish this book. So that's good. You're keeping me accountable.
So just to share, in edition 3 we had Ryan Pelkey, all the way from the US. He also, a week after, he published his children's book as well. So you know, I'm going to compile all this, and by perhaps edition 10 or 11 or 12 or 15 or 20, you know, we hope to see Amelia back with a book in her hands, and she's going to do a book reading for us.
Oh, thank you so much, Andrew. And thank you so much for, like, you know, putting it like 10, 20, so I don't feel super overwhelmed and stressed. You're giving me time, but also keeping me accountable, so thank you very much. I would
No
love
pressure, Amelia. It's
the
only for
clock
the
is
world
ticking.
to watch.
Yeah, no pressure at all.
Chevonne, what about yourself? What's coming up next? I know you have been super busy. It has been super difficult to get you on board on edition 4 as well, which is a good thing. I'm absolutely happy for you. What's in the pipeline, I suppose?
I have a couple of plans in place. I can't share it yet. For now, I am getting more comfortable, getting more familiar, and finding my ground in the freelancing world. I have, how do I say this? I have learned my value. I have realized my value outside of a corporate space. And I realize what I bring to the table, not in a, you know, like a overconfident way, but because I know what I bring to the table. So I will keep doing that. I will keep coaching in life, in leadership, facilitate, speak, and I will continue to advocate for mental health. I find it very fulfilling doing this on a freelance basis at this point in time. Very fulfilling, stressful, and fulfilling.
And you know, we here at Rejuvenate and we here at Synapse will forever be open to collaborating with you, right, Chevonne?
Yay. Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you, Synapse. I love it. I love it.
You know, all that talk and all that conversation that we've had, you know, it's already way past an hour. I just want to, not to say recap or to summarize the session, but I hear a lot about, you know, knowing your value, the support system, seeking help. There's nothing wrong with seeking help. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of people who goes through this struggle are not really reaching out. I may look like this, but you never know what's in here, right? Chevonne was saying we're all smiling now, but you don't know when we are screaming into our pillows and you know, throwing things or whatever that is. And that's real. It's not just you, it's not just Amelia, it's just not just me, it could be you who are watching our session now. Seeking help is really crucial. Seeking help doesn't mean you having to fork out a fortune or maybe not a fortune for a therapist. Seeking out a friend, seeking out a family member, for example. You know, Chevonne and Amelia themselves have now offered themselves to listen if you have any questions. I mean, it doesn't have to be about mental well-being or whatever it is. Amelia has so kindly spoken about, helping out, you know, if you want to transition from an NGO to SE, a social enterprise, for example. So all these things, it's just so. I wish my Fridays were always like this.
That can be
you
organized.
Know what I mean?
Yes, me too.
That can be organized.
You know, gone were the days when, you know, Friday night means we must go out somewhere and stuff like that. I mean, I will take this, listening to the two of you, listening to all the fantastic speakers that I've had on Rejuvenate so far, than anything else in the world, to be very honest with everyone. And so with that, I suppose any last words? Let's start off with Amelia. Any last words before we wrap up?
Well, I would like to first just thank you, Andrew, for hosting this, and Chevonne, you know, for inviting onto this. You're saying, like, as you said, nowhere else I'd rather be on a Friday evening, right? Talking about the challenges we've overcome, talking about growing and healing. Just listening to you, Andrew, and also to Chevonne, who I really, really look up to in her soothing voice. Yeah, it's made my Friday just so much more meaningful. So I guess to all of you who are currently listening, I wish you all the best, moving forward. Happy to connect after this as well. And yeah, I think the most important thing, like what Andrew's saying, like, yeah, seek help, right? And to understand that when you need help, when you seek help, it actually isn't a sign of weakness. It takes a lot of courage, and humility to seek help, right? And I promise you, if you're currently struggling with anything, the moment you seek help is actually the beginning of that healing process. So I wish all of you the best.
Chevonne?
Wow, Amelia pretty much covered so much already. I will start in the reverse order for everyone struggling, because we're all struggling in one way or another right now. Whether we're admitting it or we're not, we are struggling. And it is okay to ask for help. If you would like to have better context on my background, feel free to explore my Instagram. You'd need to read the captions though. And you would understand that it's really, my journey is not as easy as it appears. And have hope. Whatever you do, don't give up on hope. If you find you're running low on hope, reach out to someone, anyone who is there for you to support you. And never lose your worth. Because we all have our level of worth. No matter what happens, no matter how tough it gets, please, please, please don't lose sight of that. Yeah. And you're not alone. Yeah. And we're here, Amelia, myself, Andrew, we're here really only as 3 people out of the many who are sharing about our own lived experience. Only 3 out of many others with real life experiences. Yeah, and it's been a wonderful Friday evening, Andrew, with you, with Amelia, yes, and Synapse, and with everybody watching. And for everyone who's posted comments and questions, Ian, Melissa, Desiree, thank you so much.
Now, before I close off, Amelia, one last question.
Yeah.
When exactly does the struggle is real starts, or has it already started?
It started already. And the next episode will be on Chevonne. So if you go to our Instagram, Struggle is Real MY, you'll be able to see us announce the next interview.
You've not got a date yet for Chevonne?
We have it on the 1st of October.
Fantastic. I will be tuning in for sure. So
I
don't
didn't know
forget,
I did the
ladies
next one, but now I know.
So don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, Amelia also has her own talk show. It's called Struggle is Real. Of course, on the 1st of October, Chevonne will be her guest on her show as well. And do tune in, support. And again, I'm sure the 2 of them are, without me, they're gonna share more. I'm very sure of that. So do catch that session as well. And Chevonne, I wish you all the best. You know I'm a big supporter of you and your work and the things you do and the things you dream of doing. And I'm very sure those dreams will definitely come true.
Thank you so much, Andrew. That means a lot to me. So much. Thank you so much.
Okay. And Amelia, it's really nice meeting you for the very first time here on Rejuvenate, and it's a real pleasure. I do hope we keep in touch and
Definitely.
lots to look forward to.
Definitely. And it's just really nice for the first time meeting you to have a conversation that really matters. So thank you for having me on this platform as well.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we do have one more session before we wrap up edition 4. It is with Pranav Safla, all the way in India. And it's at 8 p.m. Malaysian time. And the only reason it's so late is because Pranav is still in school. And I have to wait for him to get off school before we can get him live on air. So trust me, you will not want to miss the next session because this boy is truly amazing, truly amazing. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, no spoilers and whatnot. Please do tune in. But if you don't, if you have missed any of this session that you have watched, any of this session that has gone past, do not worry. It is all available on the platform rejuvenatemy.com. You can rewatch the sessions again. You don't have to worry if it's live and you have missed it or you've missed some portions of it as well. So rewatch it again. You can pause, rewind, take notes, take especially the gems that Amelia and Chevonne has dropped us today. I hope everyone is taking down notes because it's really, really useful and it's really, really powerful. Powerful in a way I don't know how to describe it, to be honest, but to me it felt really powerful. So I do hope you feel that same way as well. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to wish you all a very good evening, and it is to some time for dinner, so I do hope you enjoy your dinner. And if you're tuning in from anywhere else in the world, I do wish you all a good day. And with that, thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you so much.